the Bible, in a very old and a very artful way, contains a nested teaching that is not the religion, but it's something else. There's an inward path and a very special way to access it. When I get into this, I'm not approaching this with any supernatural ideas in any way, shape, or form. I do not believe in the God of Abraham. Not at all. There's no possible way. And I see the source of the God of Abraham from the Babylonians, Apsu, that there's an evolution going on there. So when I'm going through this, what I'm doing is I'm finding that there is a template in here that is in the background that some intelligent people knew, and they're creating the stories on this template. And it's that template that I'm going after. So in this video, if it sounds strange to you, please understand that. I'm going at this very objectively. I'm going to read the Bible as if I'm reading Greek mythology. Okay, let's do that. My name is Dan Paulson. Welcome to the video. Let's go ahead and get into the interpretation. Fear of the Lord. That's a bizarre thing. I've questioned that. I accidentally, just recently, discovered the answer, and it's very spot on. It's easy to see it. We'll go take a look at it, and it's in the book of Proverbs. I remember as a child going to Sunday school, and what do you learn? Jesus loves the little children, all the children of the world, red and yellow, black and white. They are precious in his sight. As a kid, as a young child, I remember just seeing that, feeling that, seeing the pictures of, Jesus sitting there with all the children sitting around in front of him, and everything looks nice and kind, and he's got long brown hair, and he's a white guy, and there's probably a black kid and an Asian kid in there with some white kids all in that picture. So it's this perfect little, this is life right here. Then you go from Sunday school into the main sanctuary to church, the boring part. And you have to sit there and listen to the preacher now who's gotten away from the childhood stories, the ark, the animals, all the fun little things, the Jesus feeding the loaves and all that. I remember in Sunday school asking questions like, do you think they had tartar sauce? I remember my teacher saying, Danny, just stick with the story. I was always that way. But, when you get that fear of the Lord, I was sitting there listening to that thinking, this is just not right. The way that I get into the stories is I play like I'm there. I've got this imagination. Things were conflicting. Jesus killing a fig tree because it's not producing. And I'm sitting there in my mind. I am listening to that story, and I'm with him. I picture it. I see it. I feel it. I'm with the disciples. We're walking along. We come by the tree, and I'm hanging out with Jesus too, and we're friends. And he's hungry, and he commands the fig tree to die because it's not producing. And I instantly look at him and go, what the hell did you do that for? You could have had it heavily laden with figs. So something doesn't work right in my head. And the teachers are like, you know what? Just what it says right there, Danny, stop. There's a point where I remember feeling like being a little belittled, demeaned, ridiculed, kind of, for just getting to the point where the teachers lost their patience. It's like, yes, just what it says right there. Anyway, it didn't make sense to me, but I realized later I've got a certain kind of a brain that they don't have, and they don't answer the question. And that fear of the Lord is something I asked that, and what I remember being told the fear of the Lord was, and this is me, this is not other preachers. What I remember being told as a kid was that the fear of the Lord is supposed to mean that if you don't believe in and you don't follow and you don't love God, then you should fear hell for eternity. But that didn't sound right, because it's like, that's not what it said. It said fear the Lord. I couldn't quite unwrap it in my head, and it sounded like an evil thing. Like, here, I'm going to create a bunch of things, and if you love me, you're fine. And instead of just saying the rest of you, you're just gone forever, you disappear, I'm going to punish you forever. And I'm like, that's a nice guy? I don't think so. I got a problem with this. Something's not right there. So, okay. Now, if you go to YouTube and look for this, there are videos and videos up on this, because what is it? Fear the Lord. How are you supposed to fear the Lord? And I guarantee I started listening through a few of them. I can't. That is the blind leading the blind. Those blind leading the blind. Those ministers, pastors, people with their Bible degrees are the blind leading the blind. Who gets inside of the material? Who understands there's a mental path in here? There is. Who knows that there's an encoded process in the numbering system in here? None of them do. They just live in fear, praising God. They're the blind leading the blind. They're the many called standing outside the narrow gate. What I'm going to let you know here right off the bat is that everything in here is encrypted, that there's layers of understanding in here. And if you're reading the Bible and you're trying to explain why you're supposed to fear God instead of understanding something different in there, the fear God is an analogous term. It doesn't mean fear. Let me describe it this way. Since it's all a psychological process, we're encoding a teaching that has to carry through the population that won't carry the plain language teaching. Here, I got molested when I was young. That hurt me very bad. I kept it to myself. I had shame. When I thought about that, it was a very destructive thing in my life. There's a point in time where I had to learn that even though that happened, that I have a memory and the emotional state of that memory, and it continues to grow, and that I myself, unbeknownst to me, am making it get bigger and bigger and worse in my life, and it continues to cause my life to flow in concert with that so that continues to get triggered. Now, if that makes sense to you, it's because you can put yourself into it and say, yeah, that's how life works. These experiences that I had at one time that were hurtful, I still remember them, and when I recall them, or somehow they cycle again and again, they're there. Power for them is still there. Something is really awry. So you tell the population that's the problem. You know what? Whoever raped you, whoever molested you, you got to let them off the hook, or you got to find some way of making it so you're no longer pissed off and angry or ashamed. All of the emotion you have to it, the emotion is what the seed is. That has to change or nothing changes. So you have to forgive the person who hurt you in some way. You really don't do that. I've discovered you don't forgive the person. You can say that all day long, and then you're still thinking, oh, I'd forgive him, but I hate the bastard. It's like, well, that's not forgiveness, is it? You don't forgive the person. What you're doing is you're understanding you have a memory and a perception, and this perception that you have is the emotional state. This is what needs to be changed. This is what you're living through right up here. The emotional state that you have that you're holding that memory to, not the other person. Don't even focus on the other person. Focus on this right up here. Okay, but in the meantime, you're trying to tell that to people, and most people are going to go, it didn't happen. Nothing like that ever happened to me. I hate gay people, but nothing like that ever happened to me. I just hate gay people, but nothing like that ever happened to me. I just hate gay people. That's it. And you can see the fruits from their garden emerging again and again, can't you? All right, but they're not going to pass around that teaching. They're not. So what do? You make up something that's analogous. You say an anchored ship cannot sail. And then people will go, okay, I get that. But you have to know that you're the ship. You're anchored. People can interpret that. A literalist is going to say that's about a ship and an anchor. Somebody who interprets it, a Christian, is going to go, oh, that's about me, but it's about the physical world. As long as I'm hanging on to my old dead-end job, old relationship, something, I can't move on. Perfect. Somebody else says, no, that means that if you don't ground yourself into something, you're going to fly free and you need to be grounded someplace. Okay, well, that sounds good too, but they live in conflict. That's why there's so many different variations of Christianity. That's where people are. They're making it about them. However, there's one truth in there that is that nested truth. I'm the ship, and what I'm hanging on to, I can't let free of. And only certain people are going to know that. We change the religion. I need it to sound different. Okay. The dog tied up in the yard cannot run away. I'm the dog tied up in the yard, and I can't escape what I'm hanging on to. The goat chained in the field cannot leave the field. Something. Somehow, you're making up this idea that you're creating something that is an analogous representation of what you have going on in a mental process up here. And when you know that, you can always extract that. Whatever the verse is going to be about that mental process in some way. But you have to hide it in something that is going to guide a population and that will be palatable and be passed around. And that's what we have in religion. However, this stuff is nested. What I just described to you right there, you can think about that and look at your own life and go, okay, that applies. You can find it in Jesus' teaching, but it's nested. It's encrypted in verbiage. If you come to the altar to leave a gift, and while there you remember you have aught against your brother, go resolve the ought first. Don't give the gift. Go resolve the ought. And then once you've done that, then come back and give your gift. And then there's another point, depending on, there's a couple variations, but there's a part where it says your Father who sees in secret rewards you in secret. So it happens automatically. But what are we doing? Why are we leaving a gift at the altar? You're looking for God's graces. You want a better life. I want a better life. And while I'm looking for a better life, I remember I'm carrying a bunch of stuff that I don't have resolved. And if I want a better life, What I have to do is stop looking for the better life, go resolve that stuff, and then come back, and the better life will happen automatically. That's what we're supposed to do. That's how the material works. And the New Testament is utilizing more modern verbiage than the Old Testament. But we're going to Proverbs to see where that is. That's where it teaches us how to, or what it is, to fear the Lord. It is not to be afraid. It's something different. If I'm naked in the physical world, that means I don't have clothes on. If it's the spiritual world, that means I don't have anything to hide anymore. That molestation that used to bother me, I'm now naked. I'm uncovered from that. I'm no longer covered. I feel better. I feel I've drank new wine. Those are good things. They're analogous terms that if you don't interpret them and understand what they mean in the mental, in the mind, you're not going to interact with it. You can worship it or deny it, but you can't interact with it. Now, if you're not familiar with my work, I'm going to let you know there's a grid, a numbering grid pattern that I'm going to be relying heavily upon. Once you see it, you will see that that is how the story is structured. That it gets pretty deep. It's so thick. Remembering now, this is what they had for their entire life. In the way we have our media and we focus on it, they had none of that. They had the stories and they focused on them. So we're barely touching what's there. There's something a lot deeper. I've spent the last 7 years focused on this right here, and I've got the 3-7 grid. What we're looking at is a template that is the human life cycle. How we come about, how we judge life, how we become hurt, how we turn inward to heal, and how, as a result, life changes and becomes better for us. That's what we're looking for. That's what is in here. All right, I cannot take the time to explain all of this in the video. It gets way too big and too deep, but the 3-7 grid is going to start right here at Genesis. Where it is going to be is right here. Do you see where the second creation story, or the second chapter is? And the first creation story overlaps into it 3 verses. Those verses were put there, though. They were numbered by Langton. They were not there originally part of the story. But what Langton is trying to point out to us is that this, see how the 7 is said 3 times right there? Seventh day, seventh day, seventh day. That's how they're encoding. And where does he have it? Right here on 3. If we know that 7, 7, 7 is 3 right there, we'd pick that up as code. But we wouldn't know that. What this is doing is saying 7 and 3 are both the same thing. The reason they're picking 7 is because it's parallel to both. They were both naked, the man and his wife, and were not ashamed. This is us at childhood, before we begin to judge life and experience. Called first sin, but it's really what? You got molested. Now I got hurt. Now I got cyclical pain in childbirth as a result of it. Okay, so this is a point where that hasn't happened. We're pure here. It might be important for me to reiterate right here, if you haven't seen my videos, I'm treating, all of these have to be treated in a certain way. The man and the wife were naked and not ashamed is everybody's consciousness and everybody's subconscious, your bundle of memories. The ought against your brother has not began. It's not started yet. It's before all of that. Where does the 3 come from? The 3 is, what happens? Stuff keeps happening over and over again. Cause and effect. And God said, let the earth bring forth grass, and herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after its kind, whose seed is in itself upon the earth, and it was so. There we have cause and effect. These are analogs. This is us being grown and developed. This is our garden, the garden of our experiences. And we're going to have a garden that is such that once something is planted in it, it's going to continue to grow. This is cause and effect and cycles. If you understood spiritual, other cryptic material, hermetic material, you would instantly recognize it as a way to say this is cause and effect, but it's just done in a very cryptic manner. Okay, so the 7-3 grid starts right there. What does that mean? You are a child, pure, not yet experienced life, ready to go. And as you go, you're going to experience life through cause and effect and the cycles of life. That's what we're looking for. I want to find that 7-3 at the beginning of every story. Seriously. All right, I've got Proverbs, King James Version. If you do this on your own, I would only use the King James Version for doing this, what I'm about to do here, this searching. All right, what I know as I get into it, right in the beginning, in the first chapter of each book, it's going to be versed with 3 and a 7. There's going to be a 3 and a 7 there, but somewhere within the 3, within verse 3, there's going to be a word that is repeated 7 times, Or somewhere in verse 7, there's going to be a word or a phrase that is repeated exactly 3 times. That's going to be the 7-3 acknowledgement. This is being built. Well, you know what? Let's try to keep it simple. There's my 7-3. As I get into Proverbs, what I'm going to do is see that the fear of the Lord is the. If I come over here and type, you see that the fear of the Lord is actually 14 times here. Is. It just dropped down to 6 times. What is it? Is the beginning of knowledge. Is to hate evil. Is the beginning of wisdom. Is strong confidence. Is a fountain of life. Is the instruction of wisdom. So they've got everything you need to know about what the fear of the Lord is. It's spread out. What made that one stand out was the. Oddly enough, that was it. Once I hit the, it was down to 3 times. So right there we have our 7-3 acknowledgement. But what I've done now is I've taken all of those and I just copied and pasted them out of the book of Proverbs and put them in their own document. So I've got all 14 of them right here. Every one of these is where it says the fear of the Lord. Now there was 3 of them that were the fear of the Lord is the. That was the one that broke down to 3. And again, word repeats is what we're looking for. We have to do this. If you continue along, you'll see that that's exactly how they're encoding this inward path. It's very complicated. All right, so we got the fear of the Lord right here. And it was, on 7. All right, the other one was on 10 in another chapter, and it was the beginning of wisdom. So let's take these 3 right here. Just put the 3 consolidated here next to each other. So the fear of the Lord is, this is what we're looking for. We want to know what the fear of the Lord is. What do we have? Beginning of knowledge, beginning of wisdom, instruction of wisdom. Beginning of wisdom and the knowledge of the holy understanding. Beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. All right, let's read through all of them. We're looking at something here that is not worship-based, but is knowledge and wisdom-based. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. For they that hate knowledge and did not choose the fear of the Lord. All right, and look at those. The fear of the Lord, beginning of knowledge. For they that hate knowledge and did not choose fear of the Lord. What does that mean? If you hate knowledge, you don't have the fear of the Lord. Therefore, the fear of the Lord is what? Knowledge. Someone that loves knowledge is what that means. I love knowledge and wisdom. I want to know. The desire. Seek, you shall find. Knock, it will be opened. The fear of the Lord is the desire for the knowledge and the wisdom. I've got these out in the verses, so they might sound kind of funny. They're not complete sentences all the time. Then you shall understand the fear of the Lord and find the knowledge of God. So we got instructions in there. The knowledge of God is going to be the higher awareness. The fear of the Lord is to hate evil, pride, and arrogancy, and the evil way, and the froward. It's contrary, hard to deal with. Mouth do I hate. The fear of the Lord. The fear of the Lord, remember, we tend to try to put the Lord out judging us. The Lord is in our head. The Lord is a part of us that we don't necessarily engage with. It's a higher awareness. So the fear of the Lord, the fear of the inner part here, your inner self is to hate the evil, the pride, and the arrogance, and the evil way within ourselves. This is not about judging other people. This is about looking at yourself and judging the qualities that you have. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the holy is understanding. The fear of the Lord prolong days, but the years of the wicked shall be shortened. Okay, again, what are these analogous? Prolonged days. This is not physical. We're born alive, then we die, then we get reborn. Let me describe that. Okay, so the way that the stories are written is that you're born pure, that you haven't judged anything yet, and so you're alive. Then we start judging life, and as we do, we begin to live through the memories. That's called dying, because now instead of living through our higher self, we're dying to that and living through our memories. So now we're dead. In order to become alive again, what we must do is remove the judgments. And they've just got it wrapped up in verbiage that way. Okay, it's a weird thing to understand the first time around, but when you begin to realize that there's psychological processes from, I don't know, how old is that, 4,000, 5,000 years? It's pretty old material. We're very out of touch with it, but they're encoding psychological processes in it, and they're following a numbered step sequence pattern that is consistent. It's amazingly man-made, but very incredibly important. All right, so here we have the fear of the Lord. Prolong your days. You will live enlightened in the kingdom of heaven within. They didn't have that back then. But the years of the wicked shall be shortened. You actually want. We all have our. This is going to be like all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. It's a different way of saying it. That doesn't appear in this one, but everybody is going to judge life and live through their judgments, and that is called wicked. It's just an analogous term. It's not really being wicked. You have to convert it. I want to stand naked in front of people. Again, analogous term, spiritually naked. I don't want to have any fears. We have to know that wicked is doing the same thing. It doesn't mean wicked. It means, what is it? That means while I'm living through my unaware self, and I want that time to be shortened. In the fear of the Lord is strong confidence, and his children shall have a place of refuge. That is when we are connected with our higher awareness. The children is our inner awareness, our inner qualities. What acts out of us? Well, how do we feel? What are the various things that we contain in our mind? Those are our children. They need a place of refuge. Where is that? In the mind. The house of God. Babylonian and Aruna, meeting place of the gods. Better is little with the fear of the Lord than great treasure and trouble therewith. Okay, it's better to have very small amount with the fear of the Lord. Yeah, the simple life, fastest to the world. You don't have complex things. Fear of the Lord, a connection. We don't need so many millions of things happening in our head. We need the things that make us happy. Simple, carefree. We're Americans. We do a horrible job at doing this. It's better to live a simple, carefree life with connection to the higher awareness than all kinds of stuff with a head that's messed up and trouble therewith. Yeah, it's better to have an easy, simple life than it is to have a complex, wealthy, terrible one that you have a lot of confusion. And using the term that sounds like monetary here, that's not the case. It has nothing to do with riches, your life value. It has to do with the rich of your mind. You want a poor mind. You want to be poor in spirit. You want to be empty. When you have a rich mind, it's full of things. That's not a good thing. Okay, so in this case, what they're suggesting here is an accumulation of judgments. The more you have, the richer your mind is. You don't want that accumulation of judgments. You want it to be poor. And again, it has nothing to do with your physical life. It has to do with your mind. The fear of the Lord is a fountain of life, to depart from the snares of death. Snares of death is, we need to rise above. The fear of the Lord is the instruction of wisdom, and before honor is humility. This is inside of us again. Remember, we have to be humble. We have to look at ourselves and go, I think I know it all, don't I? I better drop that. By mercy and truth, iniquity is purged, and by the fear of the Lord, men depart from evil. Connecting with the higher awareness is how we depart from our memories. The memories hurt. We don't want to face them. We live through them. They're emotionally difficult. When we understand the higher awareness, the fear of the Lord, and we can operate from there, we get there mentally where this is a place we sit mentally where you're not experiencing the memories or the emotion. You're looking at it very objectively. This is a part we get to. This is a part we can get to anytime. Just step outside of the memory and step outside of the fear. You can shift your consciousness to experience the memory or experience the higher awareness. That's what we're doing. By mercy and truth. Mercy and truth is purged. being easy on ourselves and dealing with it. Yeah, I don't want to tell anybody. I got to be merciful. I've done bad things or had things bad happen. I got to be truthful, and I have to be merciful, and I have to purge them, and I have to use the higher awareness in order to depart from the evil. The fear of the Lord tend to life, and he that hath it shall abide satisfied. He shall not be visited with evil. Once you live from the higher awareness, everything's fine. And evil means sitting there in a quiet afternoon watching a beautiful sunset while your mind is frazzled, confused, and you're hurting and thinking. That's being visited with evil. Evil is in your mind. Evil is an analogous term that means what hurts you. What cycles that is not okay. By humility and the fear of the Lord are riches and honor and life. Things will come about automatically if you operate from here, not from the memories. Let not your heart envy sinners, but be in the heart of the Lord all the day long. Don't let your heart envy sinners. Your heart is what? Your heart is your desires, your thoughts, your emotions, what we feel. Don't be a part of the people that are just connected to life, just judging life. That's what we do. We start off this way. We envy the sinners. What that means is we're living the life unaware that we're starting to make judgments and live through those judgments. And if they hurt, we become hurt. But be in the fear of the Lord all the day long. Fear of the Lord then means what? I get through here and I go, okay, fear of the Lord is, do you know that, like when you're sleeping at night and you're tossing and turning and you wake up at 3 or 4 and there's something that's just got you frazzled. This is a common thing for people. The more you accumulate, the worse this gets. And every once in a while, a very quiet voice steps in and tries to set you at ease. Shh, yeah, man, you got to just sleep. There's nothing you can do tonight. You know that. Try to relax. It's late. You need some sleep. And we don't consciously really think about that. We slip right back into the memories. But that is actually the higher awareness. That's the Lord. That is the fear of the Lord, is the knowledge of this and saying, this is where I need to be from. I'm experiencing these emotions and I'm feeling them. And as I'm feeling them, I'm growing them. I'm building them. I'm putting fertilizer on them. The very process of giving them mental space and emotion, time, is fertilizing them. It's growing them. And we don't know that. When the higher awareness comes in, we need to hold on to that and say, you're right. I got to stop slipping into those memories. I just have to sit here quietly. This is the fear of the Lord right here. It is not afraid of anything. It is sitting in a place mentally that is not living through your memories, your sins, your judgments, all of that. It's tough verbiage. Everybody's teaching the same thing. They're using their own language. Here we have sin happened. First sin, that's judging something. And then first pain happens as a result. Jesus tells you don't judge things. Buddha tells us all that we are is a product of what we have thought. Lao Tzu tells us that naming is the origin of all particular things. Naming means judging. I don't know what that is. I don't have that experience. Now I've had that experience. I think this way about it. I've named it. So all of these teachings are the same thing. They're mental processes held in analogous verbiage. Once you understand that, you can begin to unwrap the analogous verbiage. But at any rate, okay, so that's it for this video. That's the fear of the Lord. It has nothing to do with fear. It has to do with knowledge, wisdom, and what to do. That's it. I know the videos get long. Hope it was interesting. See you in the next one.